friends, it's Kayla Moran and welcome back to the Let's Get Candid podcast. How's everybody doing today? Happy Thursday, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is literally the fourth time I've tried to record this intro, but it's okay. We're just gonna keep moving. I apparently need another cup of coffee or something. My brain is all jumbled up, but I'm excited to be back in the mic with you guys. As always, I'm really excited for this episode and our guest. It's a big deal that I was able to get this person to come on the show, and I'm so excited to finally share this episode because we recorded back in March, which is absolutely insane. And one of my goals in 2023 is to be a lot more mindful and chill about recording podcast episodes. I banked so many episodes February, March, and April, knowing that I was going to take off recording episodes during bar prep, and then I was planning on having an episode go up every single week that I was in Europe, but I just couldn't make it, I couldn't do it. I couldn't make it work. So I skipped a whole month of episodes, and then I've skipped 2 or 3 since then. But normally I have an episode go up every single week, so I'm just really backtracked. But in 2023, once I get through the catalog of episodes that I have mid-March or early March, then I will start recording in February no more than 8 episodes a month, 2 a week, to make sure that I have a month ahead just in case something happens, but I don't need to go crazy anymore. And I'm really excited about that schedule, and I'm looking forward to it because I just feel really bad that so many episodes that I've recorded in March are now coming out November, December, and these conversations are a little outdated. What we're talking about may not be current anymore. For some people it still is, but for others it's not. But it is what it is. I have to make it work, and I really wanted to start a podcast a year ago, and I jumped in headfirst. I made the leap, and I'm really, really proud of myself, and I'm grateful that I did because it's changed my life, but definitely went a little crazy. So anyway, I'm excited for you guys to finally hear this conversation because it was such a great convo. I had so much fun recording, and it was like a pinch me moment. And when I tell you guys who it is, you guys are gonna freak, but you already know because you're looking at the title. What's happening? It is Art Basel. Art Basel is a week in every year. There's Art Basels in Switzerland, in Basel, Switzerland, and then there's one in Miami Beach, and it's basically an art festival. There's events, there's parties, there's activations, there's so much happening. Artists come and debut shows, they debut sculptures, artworks, walls, the Wynwood walls that are famous, and there's something happening every single night. And I got invited to an event every single day, Wednesday through Sunday, and it started on Monday, but I didn't get any invites for Monday and Tuesday, which is okay because I still have to work sometime during the week. So it's gonna be madness, but I'm really excited and honored to be able to go to Art Basel because growing up in Miami, it's one of the things to do. I've never gotten to go. Once I performed at Art Basel, with my dance studio at one Art Basel party back in freshman or sophomore year of high school, but I haven't actually attended as a guest. So I'm really excited. I'm moving on up in the world. I got to go to Swim Week 2 years ago. I didn't go this year because of bar prep, but I have a really good feeling about 2023 Swim Week, going to Art Basel. I'm starting to make connections with PR companies and brands and building these relationships that will allow me to go to events and activations. And I feel like I'm really finding my flow in the influencer space, and I'm excited because it's been hard. I'm not gonna lie, it is so discouraging sometimes. We hear about the algorithm and engagement being down and TikTok and Instagram, this and that, and it's really discouraging. And there's been times where I'm is this even worth it? Do people actually care? But then I get that one message that is no, you gotta keep going, just keep going. Someone out there is grateful for you. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing your story. Or just keep going. You gotta be consistent. And if you love it, just keep going, even if no one is paying attention. And you know what? You're right. You gotta dance no one's watching. If you're passionate about it, you're willing to put in the work, it will come in time. You just gotta be willing to put in the work, and it will be so rewarding when those moments come. And yeah, I feel really good. I feel very, very good right now going into Art Basel, but not just that, the end of the year and 2023, because the last 3 years, I've talked about it like ad nauseum have been the most transformative in my life, but 2022 was the year that truly, like, my hard work paid off. All the sleepless nights, all the blood, sweat, and tears. I graduated from law school over a 3.0 GPA. That's what I wanted, considering how I started, and that I really just wasn't happy while I was in law school, and I knew that there was more for me, and that I knew I would be able to do more having gotten my law degree, but I just wasn't enjoying the process. And some people really enjoy it, and I wasn't one of those people. So I did it, I graduated, and I passed the bar exam on the first try, even though I really didn't think that I would. It's still shocking to me, like, when everyone's like, oh my God, congrats, you're a lawyer, like someone that I haven't seen in years or months, or my dad's friends, like, I get on the phone with them, like, networking, and they're like, congratulations on being a lawyer, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a lawyer? Like, I still, like, have to pinch myself. But you know what? I did it, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was the most rewarding, like, getting to call myself a lawyer, and people look at me, you know, with awe and praise and admire me and are proud of me because they know what this accomplishment means. They know what it takes to, you know, have those 3 letters behind your name. And that's really freaking cool. Even if sometimes my clients are not the best because I sound very young and I'm a female, and there's still a group of people that don't think that women should be in positions that they are in companies and professions and whatever. We're not going to go there. That's a conversation for another day. But, you know, I still have those moments of not feeling like I belong there. And I don't want to call it imposter syndrome because, you know what? Like, if someone, meaning me, had the balls to go through everything they've gone through and hold themselves as a lawyer, and people believe in me, and someone gave me that recognition, and other people look at me and are proud of me and encourage me and support me, like, who's to say I can't do it? Like, I'm not going to let some comment get me down, but it does at times sting a little. And so that's been an interesting transition. But 2022 was just a year of adjustment in a whole nother way. Like, I thought adjusting to law school was interesting, but it's a whole nother period of adjustment coming out of it that I don't think anyone talks about. And I definitely want to dive more into this with my friends. I think I talked about this on last week's intro as well. So we are going to dive into that at some point in the near future. But I feel like I'm really coming into my own, and I'm really freaking excited to see where 2023 goes, because I've just realized so much. Like, the self-awareness is insane. I've looked inward so much. I've cried so much in the last few months since I've been home and since I passed the bar exam, and deciding, is this really the life that I want for myself? But you know what? It's a resounding yes. Like, there is nowhere else I would rather be, even if this is hard. And I'm still open to opportunities. I am still taking calls and meetings with other attorneys. I am going to events. I am keeping my ear on the ground, like, deciding, you know, being open to other opportunities at firms, at more established firms, at different types of work. You know, I'm not deciding anything right now 100%. Like, you can change, you can pivot. Like, no, you don't have to marry one idea. You can pivot. And I don't know where 2023 is going to take me, but I'm really excited to see where it goes. And I'm happy that 2022 brought me to this point. And I think, you know, today's December 1st, starting the month on a really high note, because I feel just really, really good. And I'm just really damn proud of myself. And people that have seen me grow up or have heard about me through my family or from afar are really proud of me. And, you know, if they're not all fools, like, they're all proud of me for something. So, like, I should be proud of myself too. And I am really proud of myself. And I just have to remind myself of that I am worth it and I deserve everything that's coming my way. And, you know, I've really stepped into my faith and praying and, you know, manifestation and, you know, loving myself. And I hug myself at night and say, I'm proud of you and I love you. You're doing amazing. And I don't do it every night, but I try my best to do it. I'm actually doing it right now as I say this, because I needed to feel that and hear it. And, you know, not everyone's going to tell you externally. It has to come from you. It should come from you. And you're the longest lasting relationship you have with yourself. And the words that you say, you're talking to yourself. And just reminding myself that I am meant to be where I am right now. And I'm really damn proud of the girl that I've become and for all the past versions of me, even from last month, even from last year to 10 years ago to whatever. Like the little girl inside, like, you know, look at all you've accomplished. I'm really proud of you. Like, you're here, you made it. And I'm lucky that I got to have all those past versions of myself that got me to where I am, and for all the people that have come in my life that have led me to where I am today. Like, you know, I love you and I'm grateful for you, good, bad, ugly, whatever it was, because you made me who I am. I made myself who I am, and I'm really damn proud of that. And, you know, to anyone that I ever hurt along the way, I'm sorry. But also I'm grateful for all of those things that happened because it led me here. And, you know, I've just been in a really interesting reflection period, I think, for a while now. I think it's kind of obvious. And I've been talking about it a lot with my friends. And it's just really cool to come into your own and step into the next chapter of your life. And that's what this episode with Kenzie Elizabeth is all about, because, you know, she is the queen of living your best life in your 20s, single, on your own, doing all the things, breadwinning housewife, and, you know, building a community of like-minded girls who want that support and that, you know, encouragement to live their best life on their own post-grad too. And it was really cool to chat with her, and I think this is the perfect intro for her episode, because a lot of the things that she talks about that she went through, you know, we're the same age, but she went through it a couple years before me because she didn't go to grad school, whereas I had 3 more years of school. So it's like I had an additional college experience essentially through law school, and like now is when I'm in my post-grad adjustment, and no one talks about it at 25 and 26. Everyone talks about it at 22. And it is a doozy, let me just tell you. And we'll talk about that in a future episode. But, you know, it's been nice to be a part of her community and get to, you know, have someone to look up to, knowing that, like, she did it and I'm going to do it too. And that's the confidence and empowerment that she gives her community. And I'm so excited to bring that to you guys here. So I'm really looking forward to it, but really fast, quick suck and sweet of the week before we jump right in. So my suck of the week is that it's just, I feel like I've just been going through these realizations constantly, and it's a little overwhelming, and I'm honestly exhausted sometimes of just how many like realizations like I've had, not in a bad way, but just like, damn, like I've been through so much, but like I'm really proud of myself, but like holy shit, that was a lot. You know, going through it, it's like the hardest thing ever. But when you look back down the road, 5-10 years, like it's a story, and it all comes together really beautifully. And we're grateful for that. So like I'm starting to piece together that story of my life, and it's like going through it all over again, like doing the work, but it is the most rewarding work. So it's not really a suck. It's just like, oh, my dog. Sorry about that. But just like, it's a lot, but I'm really proud of doing all of that work. And my sweet of the week is that I'm really excited for Art Basel. To be honest, I'm just really excited to go to all these events and meet people and have a good time and get all dressed up and see some of my friends. And I'm really excited too for the friendships that I'm building with people in my life now. Like I talk about it in my birthday blog post. Like there was some friendships that I had that were really, really close friends of mine that I'm just not friends with anymore. We drifted apart. Our paths changed, and that's okay. Whoops, I just hiccuped. That's okay. Like it happens. But the people that are still in my life right now, the people that are coming into my life, like I'm really excited to foster those friendships and see where they take me as well. And also, totally random, but talking about stories, my dad the other day looked at me and was like, you know, you should write a book one day. Like you doing all of those, because I told him like my birthday blog post, I don't know if he's read it, but like I told him about it. I told him about my intentions and goals and manifestations for 2023. I went through and did all of that on Monday and did a note for each one on my phone. And I was planning out my week, and he was like, you know, with all of this documentation that you have, like you should write a book one day. Like 10, 20, 30 years from now. Because I think it would be really helpful for people. Like, you've gone through so much, you've lived through so much, and you're so encouraging and supportive to your community. I think it would be really cool. And I was like, trust me, it's on my bucket list, like down the road, but like that is something I want to do. But it just is really cool to have that encouragement from my dad, because he's the one that encouraged me to start a blog in the first place 4 years ago, and 5 years ago almost. And well, yeah, 5 years. That was January 2018. Holy shit. 5 years ago almost. And when I told him I wanted to start a podcast, he was wholeheartedly in agreement. Like, you should do this. And he's seen the growth and transformation in me, and it has been incredible for him. And he's so proud of me. And for him to be like, you should write a book. I was like, damn, like, yeah, like, I want to. It's something I thought about. So that's really cool. So you know what? If you are passionate about something, if something lights you up inside, go for it. 100% go for it. Don't let anyone stand in your way. Well, anyway, my dog is getting impatient, so we're going to jump right into the episode. There's more where that came from in past episodes. I will link them in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. It means the absolute world to me. And if you liked it, please leave a rating and review. Please subscribe. Please follow along to the show. Share with a friend. Tag us when you're listening and like on a screenshot on stories. And go follow Kenzie Elizabeth. It's all linked below. Thank you guys so much. I will talk to you all next week. Meet Kenzie. So, Kenzie, what is something that people wouldn't know about you just from following you?
That question is so difficult because I really do feel like I share so like all of my interests. I feel like I'm trying to think of the answer that Dom normally gives to people. I'm actually incredibly low maintenance, and I think that maybe because I like post about like clothes and girly stuff and whatever, and I like doing certain things, I'm actually just like really really low maintenance, and I don't need many things, or like I don't know how to describe it. Like I'm not. I think you would think I'd be a high maintenance person, essentially, is what I'm saying, and I'm not.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. I like that answer. I love starting off with the hard-hitting questions and, getting real candid right from the beginning. But that's I think it's something I've been talking about a lot with, like, I think people think we share so much of our lives online that we are on all the time. That's like really who we are. And like, I know for you, and at least for me, for sure, who I am online is 100% who I am, but they're like offline, but there's also a part of me that I won't share. And
Yeah.
so what you see is what you get, but there's that other side of me. And like, yeah, it looks like I'm really high maintenance too. Like, we like getting our nails on, like we like getting our hair done. We were talking about getting lip filler. Like, we like taking care of ourselves, but it's taking care of ourselves. We're not doing it because we're high maintenance. We're doing it because it makes us feel good and we like it and we enjoy it. And so I think that's a great answer. And so we are the same age, but you have amassed an incredible following, an incredible community, an incredible business online because you started back in high school sharing your life online. So take us back to high school, Kenzie. Why did you start YouTube, and what was that like?
I started YouTube when it was right around my 16th birthday. Like, my first video was like 16th birthday vlog, whatever. I grew up watching YouTube. I started watching in middle school. I always really wanted a channel, and I was going through just a lot of stuff at home, and it became it was like my comfort watch, my comfort zone. It was what all I would do to like calm myself down. And so my original thing with starting YouTube was, I was like, if I can be that for someone else, like, that's all I want. And so that was like my intentions completely and how I started. And now it's almost a decade later, which is crazy. I turned 25 this year, so we're coming up on 10 years.
That's so crazy. Like, I can't even imagine. We're the same age. Similar thing. Like, I grew up watching YouTube and I wanted to do it. I actually started a YouTube channel, but then I was like, nah. I was so focused on dancing, and then I, went to college, law school. But while I was in law school, I was like, I got more into this. The blogging, the, social media, met Natalie Barbu, and then started a podcast because she pushed me. She's like, you'd be really good at this. And now I can't imagine not having it. So how have you evolved? I mean, obviously we've evolved just because you have to by 10 years. Like, how has your evolution been shaped by being on social media for so long?
I think I don't know if my evolution, I think that my evolution just as a person has been drastically affected by growing up on the internet. And I look at it, and I knew it at the time, and I look at it now, but I don't even know if it had a lot to do with the internet. I think in times that have been like really hard for me, like, I've lost two very close family members to me in a very short span of time. And there's a few other things that have happened. And I felt like I used my job almost as like my escape. And that was what I would just, or I'd be like, oh, I can't have a bad day because I have to film myself because that is my job and then whatever. So I do think it's actually like emotionally stunted me in ways that I didn't really start to deal with until probably like 2020. But I think like my actual evolution on the internet and just like career wise for Kenzie Elizabeth, it's really followed my different interests. Like you saw my high school stuff, like college stuff, and then like as I'm post grad now, like a breadwinning housewife has become a bigger thing. Like I live in Texas now. I love country music. I go ride. I was on a horse yesterday. Like I do. I think a lot of my career has followed my evolution as a person because it is a personal brand. Like as cringy as that sounds, is what it is.
Yeah.
So I think on one hand, it has emotionally stunted me, and then on the other hand, it's basically just followed my phases of life.
No, I would agree with that. That's so funny that you rode a horse yesterday. Like, I love how you snuck that in there. But no, it's true. Like, it is a part of our lives. We're emotionally stunted just in general by being on social media and can't, like, is one thing growing up, like, like when we were in middle school, social media still wasn't a thing. So it was like the bullying was like in the hallways, but then you start being online in high school for us and even younger now, everybody else. And it's like, it's a whole new layer of reputation and perception and the way we carry ourselves and like how we see other people. And like you said, like you like, I can't have a bad day because I have to film it. Like you're not allowing yourself to be a kid and go through those struggles because you have to share it online because you made that choice for yourself and you love doing it, but it was hurting you. And I think on a smaller scale, we've all kind of felt that. And then also, I love that you got to share the evolution of your life and use that to build your brand because it's so much more relatable that way.
Mhm.
Because we've all grown, we've all gone through phases. We experience different things, high school, college, now post grad, which I do want to talk a lot about, and just making friends after post grad and figuring out what you want to do and really taking a step back to figure out what makes you happy as a person. Like what does Kenzie want versus what does Kenzie Elizabeth the brand want, because they're similar but they're different. And also, yeah, it is cringy, but it is a personal brand because our Instagram, it used to be just sharing our life, but it's our portfolio. It's who we're choosing to present to the world on a grander scale. And I don't know, I think it's really cool. And I bet it's weird, but also cool to be able to go back and see how far you've come, seeing, 16-year-old Kenzie, 20-year-old Kenzie to now 24-year-old Kenzie. What was it like? You grew up in Texas, right? And then you moved to LA. So what
Mhm.
was it like growing up in Texas and then moving to LA for pursuing this career in social media?
So I moved out actually my senior year of high school. I graduated early and then I started college a little bit early. And then I don't know. I just, for whatever reason, moving to LA was not a huge adjustment for me. I had moved a lot when I was younger and then my parents were divorced. So I was back and forth between each, like, it's actually weird. I was also 17. So I was incredibly naive. So it was not this huge adjustment. I didn't find it to be super different, even though obviously the two places are very different. Like, I just, for whatever reason, it was a really easy adjustment for me. And I loved LA for my time there and like what it gave me in my foundation. I don't like necessarily miss living there at this point in time because I love like Dallas so much more. But I do love LA and I'm grateful for the time. And I think I moved so young that I was so naive that I couldn't even be afraid, if that makes sense. Like I think if I were to have moved 22 up, I would have been like, okay, like this is a big change. If I were to move right now somewhere, I would be really sad. So like I don't have like good moving to different city tips or anything because I just did it when I was naive and it's
Yeah.
like I wasn't afraid and I really wanted to do it at the time. And it was great. I was there for almost 5 years. I love LA. And it definitely helped me a lot. I went to college out there and it was great. But yeah, I moved so young. I was just very naive.
No, I think innocence and ignorance is sometimes bliss.
Yeah.
And like, if we knew then what we know now, like, yeah, so many things would be different. But I think I moved out at 17. I graduated high school at an early age, but with my class, I
Hmm.
was 17 and I didn't turn 18 till Thanksgiving of my freshman year of college. So, a whole pretty much semester of being underage, like fully underage. And yeah, the naivety, I can't pronounce that word. Being naive is actually a really great thing sometimes
Yeah.
because that fearlessness, it propels us into, I don't know, just everything. And I agree. I think if you anyone were to move now, like we're just more mature. We've seen shit. We've gone through shit a lot more than when we were 17. Not that to say you couldn't have gone through shit as a kid, but I think probably was a really good good way it worked out. But what made you decide to move back to Texas and to Dallas specifically?
I just love Texas. Well, originally I was just buying a house here. I wasn't moving here full time, but that was February 2020. So I still had a place in LA. And then as the pandemic kept going, I just didn't renew because I bought here, I was leasing in LA. So I just didn't renew. And then I realized that like I actually just wanted to be in Texas and then have the freedom to go really wherever I wanted versus if I were to split time between LA and Texas, I would feel like the only place I could go to besides Texas would be LA. But yeah, I love Texas in general and Dallas. And I felt like I had already done so many things in LA and I don't know, like it was a very spur of the moment thing and I just did it, but it was definitely like one of the best decisions that I've made personally and career wise. I'm now in Texas. I'm one of the few that are here. It's helpful when you're not it's like obviously in LA there's so many people doing what I'm doing. And so it's nice to kind of be one, it's nice to be the only one doing something, and there's obviously cons to that, but it's also nice because I love surrounding myself with people who do different things, and I feel like I learn more from that.
No, absolutely. I'm in Miami and it's not as big here as it is in LA and New York. And I'm starting to make a lot of community of friends that do what I do, but I love also having friends that don't do what I do, but that are still supportive. So I love that. And what was it like buying a house at such a young age? I mean, that's an incredible milestone at any age, but like, you built your life online, you built your career online, you were able to do that for yourself at such a young age. Was that scary? Because you jumped in headfirst, not even realizing what you were jumping into. So
Yeah, and honestly, like, I'm very lucky because, I'm very close to my dad, and I listen to my dad with everything that I do, and, like, my entire family I have a huge family, we all use the same realtor, she's a family friend, like, I also this is what I say, I don't know, I'm sorry I'm not giving you good answers, like, I don't have that
oh,
whatever,
right.
it was one of those things where, like, I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing," and my dad basically, like, walked me through it. Even to this day, I'm like,
Oh, my dad still
I
walks me through everything by all means. Like,
yeah, I'm like, I have
use the
literally no
connections
idea what I'm doing.
use the connections and resources you have. We have that. Like, we're
Yeah.
lucky. It's a privilege to have it. Go ahead and use it. No, you're giving great answers.
Even now though, like, I'm in Dallas, and my dad came over this morning for coffee. There's water damage in my house, and I was like, "I don't know what to do." And then he was like, "Okay, well, I'll help you. Like, I'll help you call someone or whatever." And I had to, like, go into my HOA portal and then have him tell me what to do. Like, I'm not like, it sounds like I'm
Yeah.
a lot more mature and know what I'm doing by owning a house. I'm really not. Like, I call my dad about something every single day.
No, I think it's important to recognize, like, I like getting candid with people and asking these questions because stuff that not a lot of people talk about. And, you don't have to be afraid to, like, admit that you have help. Like, we have the help. We're lucky. Like, why not share that? Because, it's your experience. And, I want people to know the real story. That's the whole point of getting candid. And I'm the same way. My dad he does my taxes for me. He's my business manager. He helped me figure out investments and stocks. And I'm looking to buy a house soon. I mean, not in this market in Miami, but like
Yeah.
hopefully in the next couple of years. It's something I've been really wanting to do. I'm lucky that I get to move home when I graduate to save money to do that. And they're helping me figure all of that out. And I'm at my grandma's house right now, like hanging out with her and working still. Like, we have that help. Why not? And it's your real story. So I love getting to ask you that. And I mean, like I said, it's crazy at any age to buy a house for the first time, especially this young. So
I also bought it before. I mean, the Dallas market has like since I bought, the value's gone up so much. Like I would not have been able to afford this neighborhood had I not moved. Like had I moved a month later. So obviously, I had no idea the pandemic was hitting. I had no idea that Dallas and Texas were gonna like end up being so whatever. So I didn't even buy when it ended up being so crazy. I got so lucky.
that totally makes sense. And I like getting to share like the real story. So what was that transition like from college to post grad life? Because that's what kind of led you to breadwinning housewife and everything that you're up to now. So what was that transition like?
I just didn't think I was gonna have a hard time with post grad because I had already had my career since I started when I was 16. So in college, anything, I just looked at being done with college as like, thank God, like I'm not even using my degree. I did it to get a degree to please my parents. Like, and I love learning too. Like I actually do like school, but to like have it, whatever. Like I'm very like go to college, don't go to college, I don't care. But I thought, and I'm also incredibly grateful to have been able to get an education. And my schooling was really inexpensive for school. I mean, school is expensive in general, but mine was actually very, very
Yeah,
cheap,
yeah.
I will say. But I didn't think I was going to go through the whole like post grad blues or like I'm confused because I was just like I had already been in my career for years, and school was really I felt just holding me back. And then I don't know, maybe it was a combination of graduating in 2020, but I feel like it could have been COVID aftermath, even though we're still in it. Like I don't know. I ended up just being like, I have no idea what I want to do. I'm so confused. I had just gone through a breakup and then I was like finally going out. I was changing my mind on a lot of things. Like I was like starting to like decide how I wanted to live my life versus what other people had told me to do. And so it was actually like very confusing. It was a very difficult time for me. But like my 23 third year as a whole, I say this all the time, was like the 23 to me was like my worst age ever. When someone tells me they're 23 and they're like complaining about it, I'm like, I'm so sorry, but like it literally is because you're 23. Like
No,
it
I
will pass.
agree. When I heard
It
you on,
sucks.
I heard that episode that you shared that, and I was like, this makes so much sense. Because
It's
I
23.
I 100% agree that 23 is the worst year. I mean, your 20s as a whole are mismarketed, but 23 in general is because of the post grad blues. And like I agree. I never thought that I would have the post grad blues because I also I love learning, but I feel that school is holding me back. And I'm at the point where I'm 2 months from law school graduation and I'm like, get me out of here. Like this at this point is just I know what I want. I know what where my life's going to take me. I have the tools to do it. Like let me just go out and do it. So I kind of I totally understand. And 23 for me was I mean, like we're saying, it's the worst year ever, but like it really, like I didn't know how to vocalize that until you said that. And I was like, oh, like this makes so much more sense. I totally understand that now. And yeah, it's hard. Like I can't imagine what it was like, having your own career and then making the choice like for yourself, like I'm going to go get an education and not that you took a pause on it, but like that was your focus for a little while. And then you're like, okay, I'm just going to jump right back into my career. Like, what can go wrong? And I think part of it is the COVID world and the COVID
Yeah.
aftermath. Like, that definitely had an impact on it for everyone. Definitely impacted my education and just, I mean, it impacted everybody because it allowed us to realize that we can work remote now. We don't have to be in like these hubs and there's other careers out there and all of that stuff. I'm glad we touched on the 23 is the worst year of your life part because at least up until this point, because it really is.
Yeah.
But
Like
once
if
you turn 24, it's just like it's like a magical shift. I'm a November
swear to
baby.
God, it was an overnight thing for me. I literally turned 24 and I was like, huh, I feel better. Like it really just worked out so well.
No, I'm a Thanksgiving baby, so turn 24 Christmas and then January 1st. I was like, okay, like
Yeah.
because like the holidays kind of don't count. So
Yeah.
I was like, when the new year started, I was like, 2022 is going to be my year. Like I have a feeling, and sure enough, like it's like every week, every day, every month, I have an unlock or a memory or something happens. Like I get an email or this or that, and it's like, okay, like this is what life is supposed to be like as an adult. Like I'm building the life I want for myself, and so are you. And that's kind of, can you talk a little bit about that and how Breadwinning Housewife came to be?
Yeah. So Breadwinning Housewife is not like exactly what it sounds like it is up front. It's a lot more than like being an in quotes breadwinning housewife. It started when I was talking to a friend, and over COVID, I was living alone, obviously, and I just bought this house. So I was here like working on it all the time. And I was like, had just gotten really way more into cooking than I ever had. I was reading all the time, organizing, gardening, like everything a housewife in quotes would do. You name it, I was doing it. And I was talking to her and I was like, we were updating each other on like COVID stuff. And I jokingly said I'd become like a breadwinning housewife. And then she thought it was really funny. So obviously I had to like say it to other people on the internet so they could also think I was really funny. And then it just kind of stuck. And I feel like the reason I love the term so much is because like breadwinning housewife traditionally is an oxymoron. Like traditionally they contradict each other. And like while for me, I love cooking. I love like stereotypical like housewife stuff, but I'm also a breadwinner. I'm also not a wife, so like it's a joke, it's funny. Um, it's like it also could be like a girl in STEM likes YA novels. Like, it could be anything that's like the
Yeah.
point of it is that you are not like stuck in one box that you have to fit into like society's mold. So for me specifically, like those are the things that I like, and not everything goes into like one box, but it can be anything for anyone else.
No, I absolutely love that. And I've always said, like, don't put me in a box. Why are you trying to put me in a box? I want to be all of these things. Why are you trying to just stick me in this? Like, no, like, I refuse to be put in a box. So I love that you kind of came up with a way to describe that. And, everyone was like, you're a blogger, you're starting a podcast. Aren't you in law school? Like, aren't you going to be a lawyer? And it's like, why can't I do both?
Exactly.
Like, I can. And I'm
It's like
helping
both
other.
and instead of either or.
Yeah, and so I love that, and yeah, so I was gonna ask you, what does breadwinning housewife mean to you, but you answered that, so I love when that happens, but it's just no, I agree, and I think, it's okay to like those typical housewife duties and also work full time, and it's okay to, you know, we were talking about this off air, like, want a relationship and want a partner, but not need them, and to be able to be dependent on yourself and be independent and be a badass bitch and doing your own thing and like, but it's okay to still want those things. You're allowed to want them.
And by the way, it's also okay to have literally no career aspirations. Like, if
Absolutely.
someone doesn't want that and wants to be a housewife and wants to be a stay-at-home wife, a stay-at-home mom, which I think is like actually the hardest job, but like it can literally be anything. Like, you don't even have to want like, whereas like I'm very business minded. I love working, I love building, like I love career stuff. Again, like not every girl or guy, like in general, like no one has to like really want that. I mean, like you need it to like survive. But I'm just saying like it can really be anything.
No, I agree. And I think super important that you highlighted that like not, you don't have to, like, you can do, basically it's just do whatever the hell makes you happy. Do
Exactly.
what you want and what makes you happy, and who cares what other people say, as long as you can support yourself like that, because you have to be able to, like you said. But like, yeah, if I'm very business minded, I'm very career oriented as well. And I was telling you this, like, I always wanted to be a lady who lunches, who works because she wants to. I
Yeah.
want to be a wife and a mom and have a really nice house and take care of my house and, you know, lounge out by the pool with, and like, but also go to my kids' soccer game, but be on my computer on a conference call. And I want to be involved in philanthropies and charities and go to events and galas and grand openings, but also be a badass lawyer, but wear like really nice clothes. Like, why? I'm gonna do all of those things. Like,
Yeah.
why do I have to limit myself to one traditional career path or one stereotype that we see in movies growing up? You know, but if you want that stereotypical life, then that's okay too. Like, you're allowed to
Yeah.
do whatever makes you happy. So I really love what you're doing with Breadwinning Housewife and the community that you're building around it. And it's just, I don't know,
Oh,
I'm a part of that community.
it's really taken off. The other thing I will say is like I think being a girl in general, you're always told to make yourself smaller to fit someone else's idea of who you need to be or what you need to do to then make them feel comfortable. So I think even like like even talking about money or like being a breadwinner like makes people uncomfortable, which I actually think like the conversation around money, especially if you are in a corporate job, I think the conversation around money is actually a really healthy one to have because the only
Absolutely.
person that that benefits is your employer who could potentially be like scamming you out of money. I think that like having conversations around money is a healthy thing to do. And also it's weird because like it's totally fine for guys to be like, oh, I mean, you know what I mean? And it's not
Yeah.
okay for girls and whatever. I just think as a whole, it's like girls. Also, I'm like someone who has had success at a young age and like works really hard and has a very like outgoing, loud personality. Like I've been on the internet forever. I've heard it all on and off. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't want girls to feel like they have to make themselves feel smaller to then make someone else feel comfortable.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because that was the other part. So don't put me in a box. It's like, we are not in a competition. Like, just
Yeah.
because I'm doing all these incredible things doesn't mean that you can't either. And by the way, I will support you. I want you to do all those things. Let's help each other. Like, why are we fighting? Like, you don't need to dim my light to make yourself feel brighter.
Yeah.
I will gladly extend my hand out and help you. So it really frustrates me. I've always struggled with, I never really had friends growing up that were female until now. because they were always so jealous and envious. And part of it is society, part of it is, just the age, I think, and just hormones and maturity and all of that. But it was really hard for me because it's like, why are you so jealous of me? Why are you so envious of me? Why do you think you're inferior to me? And then put that on me. I'm not doing that intentionally. I'm just living my own life. I'm staying in my lane. And like, if you want something that I have, ask me. I'd be glad to help you figure it out. And I think, so I'm so glad you brought that up. And I think it's super important to note too that that was kind of how the influencer world was. And little by little, it's shifting and we're not being such gatekeepers anymore. And with podcasts and communities that are being built through people like you who started earlier and are willing to help out and provide resources to the next generation or the people who want to do what you're doing, it's an incredible thing what you're doing. And I'm really glad you brought that up because it's so important. And one of the things that I had written down was, building your life on your terms. And I love that's what Breadwinning Housewife truly encompasses. And the community that we're building is just incredible. And like also to segue into, adult friendships and, post-grad blues and figuring out who you are, the people that you surround yourself with is a big part of that. And it's hard to navigate, especially, I'm sure, can you talk a little bit about that, friendships when you were growing up online and figuring out who your real friends were?
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like I'm just like a really normal person. I don't know if I don't know if like growing up on the internet has really affected my friendships. I do think there were definitely times where if you're trying, like what I was doing, not that it was better or worse, was just different than what everyone else was doing in high school. Because no one else, if I had a friend that was doing, that would have been very helpful. Like I just felt like I didn't really like connect or relate. And I think that that could have come off as maybe like stuck up or whatever, but it wasn't that. It was just that like we were doing different things at that time. And I also think that anytime you're doing anything different, you're an easy target. And the number one thing someone's going to say about you is that you're stuck up. I'm not a stuck up person. I've never been that way. And that's not even really what anyone was saying, but like,
No, but that's the perception that you have of yourself in your head because you're perceiving how they perceive you. I struggled with that my
yeah.
entire life. I literally was talking about this with my best friend the other day because
Yeah. And it wasn't that I was ever like, oh my God, I have followers or I have this or whatever. It was just that like it was just something different. If I was doing another thing that would have been different, I would have probably felt similarly. Like, I don't know. So I think that that was like a little bit like of a hurdle and kind of weird. But my friends that I hang out with in Dallas now, like most of us grew up together. And like it's just like we've been friends forever. And people come up and like they're like, oh my God, that's so crazy. But I still one don't think they really understand like what I actually do, like even like the magnitude of like anything that I do. And also like to them, they've known some of them have known me since I was 8. So they're just like, what? Like it's like to them, it's like weird that people because like we've just been friends for so long.
yeah.
So I don't think that like my friendships have really like drastically been affected by that. And even in LA, like I had a lot of like normal college friends that I would hang out with. So I don't even think that it's really been like drastically affected by just being on the internet. But I will say like I would not have survived post grad like at all without my friends. Like that has been the absolute biggest help. And it's just I'm really grateful that I have such good friends from home that I have been like for the most like just friends with for years. It's just really helpful.
Yeah. So I realize now as I'm growing up and, evolving like we were talking about and coming into my own and I'm attracting the people that are also in alignment with themselves. And I think that is a really key part of that. Like the people who have known you before all of this, before whatever this is, like just sharing your life on the internet, if they are in alignment with themselves, if they've evolved along with you and they support you, like you'll see those people. They won't like you don't have to talk to them every day. You don't have to see them. You don't even have to live in the same city, although it's even better when you do. But it's a similar thing for me. My best friend is someone that I've known since I was 10 years old. And
Yeah.
our lives on paper are completely different, but she has been there with me through it all. And she is so proud of me and I'm so proud of her. And like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing or that I'm, putting myself out on the internet and she doesn't like, she thinks it's cool, and that's all there is to it. So I think it's, but it is really hard to navigate friendships when you are an adult as well, because even if you are supportive, we're all on different timelines, we're all on different paths. And even removing the envy and the jealousy and inferiority factor, it's hard sometimes to not get caught up in like, damn, I wish like, looks so good. Like like everything she's doing, she bought a house, she has a dog, she has a boyfriend, she's starting a family. I really want that. And it's hard to like, damn, I wish I had that, or I want those things. And just recognizing that, it's meant to be. If it's meant to be, it'll be. And when it's your time, it'll come to you. And the community that you're building, you really have opened up that conversation for people. So can you talk a little bit about how to go about building a community and having these hard conversations in that community?
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing with me on the internet, and this is why I wanted to touch on this too. When I said like I felt emotionally stunted because I didn't like maybe I didn't process emotion because instead I was like, I have to film whatever. I think I probably would have done that with any career that I was doing. It's just
Yeah.
my thing was that was kind of my coping thing. But I will say it was especially difficult with having to like film myself, and not that I have like the biggest not that like I think the whole world's watching by any means, but I do have people who are watching my life. And it was difficult for me because I value being authentic so much, like almost to the point where it's like a little bit unhealthy. And with that being said, I do have boundaries. Like there are things I don't talk about. There are so many things that have happened in my life that have never seen the internet. But when that was like grief or something like that was such a huge, like plaguing thing happening in my life, it was really difficult. And I felt very disconnected because I didn't want to talk about it on the internet. I didn't want people chiming in. It was just too personal at that point. I mean, it still is really personal, but it was too difficult. So I think it was really hard for me personally because I didn't want to open up about that. And it made me feel inauthentic. And so it made me feel like I didn't have the relationship with my viewers that I would normally have. So as time has gone on, I just feel like like how I am in videos and podcasts and whatever is exactly how I am in real life. Like that is the first thing anyone says that meets me. Also, ask any of my friends, they would not that they even watch my stuff, but like they always say that when they're saying so like it is like you wouldn't even know a camera was on half the time if I'm with my friends and I have a camera on. They're like, oh, I didn't realize we were vlogging because I talk the exact same. Like obviously when I'm doing sit down, it's like, hey, whatever. It's like more of a host voice, but like other than that, I'm the exact same. So I think that because of that, that's helped a lot with building a community. Practically though, tools like Facebook groups, now the Geneva app are really helpful because you're actually able to have a space for community, and diving into that has just been like a really big thing. I think you honestly tools are the most helpful though because like you can continue to build a community online, but if you're not like fostering that community, like I don't know where it's going to go.
Well, how do you foster that community then? Like, what are
I
ways that
just
you
talk to
have
everyone
fostered?
like they're my friends. I think that's what it is. Like I don't know because I look at like the morning shows, like my friends Claudia and Jackie, and I think that they have done the absolute best job with community I've ever seen on the internet. But I think with them, and I've thought about this, and I don't know who I was talking to about this. I think it's because they're also sisters, and they have like like everyone can relate to one of them. One, I think it's helpful when you have a duo. Two, they are the funniest people in the world. The show's incredible. They're both incredible people, but they have all the like inside jokes and sayings and stuff. So like you get in on with sisters, right? So I feel like that is like a plus of having them. And I think that that's part of why their community is so strong. But with me, I feel like I just talk to people like we're friends. Like it's not, I was intentional from the start. Like I want a community. I don't really care about like a following necessarily. I want it to be like a community of people. But I really just think it's like being like I'm in the chat talking like everyone else is. Like I use it just in the same way that everyone else does. So I think it's just from being like talking to people. I don't know. And most of when I meet people out in public, like they're always at the same bars that I'm at, always at the same restaurants, whatever. It's like these are people I would like actually really be friends with in real life. So I think that helps too.
Absolutely. No, I'm 100%. I'm the exact same way as you. Like, I'm forgetting that this is recording right now. Like, we're just having a happy hour chat. Like, and I don't YouTube. I don't YouTube. I don't do YouTube, but it's the same thing on stories. Like, I talk to you on stories the way I talk to my real life friends. And yeah, the voice might, like, the inflection might change, but like, what I'm saying is the exact, like, it's
Yes.
what you see online is what you get. And I think when you are showing up as your true authentic self, your audience knows it and they want to be a part of it. And because you have made it very clear that that was your goal and that was your intention from the start, same thing I've done, they're invested, they want to be a part of it, and they love that you come into the Geneva group chat and like, hey guys, so this just happened, like what would you guys do, like whatever topic is that you want to talk about that day, you're asking your group chat, like your girl group chat, and it just happens to be like a bunch of people in it. I love that. And I think that's such an important note is, you can't fake authenticity. A lot of people now in the influencer world, like there's trends, there's, aesthetics that are more pleasant and like popular than others. And people are, for lack of a better word, trying so hard. And it's like, no, like when you stop trying to be what other people are doing just because it's successful for them and you lean into what makes you feel good, that's when you're really going to see that growth, not just numbers, but community. And I think nowadays it's more important to have community than to have.
Yeah, 1000%. There are people with like 2 million Instagram, like even if you're taking this to the point of like, obviously I care like personally for these people and like the community that I build with them, not emotionally, that sounds weird, but like I care about the actual community, but it's like people who are just focused on growing their accounts, which is incredible. I actually should be more focused on that. I think that I go a little too far and authentic and I need to just do things that would be good career wise too. I think that like that's another issue that I have. But I will say like there's even people who have 2 million Instagram followers who sell 2 shirts. Like that has actually happened. And it's like, then there's people with 100K that will sell 2,000. So it's like your following number doesn't really matter as much as in a business wise, your conversion would count. But really just like the community that you've built will also convert and follow you into like other like realms and areas that you're involved in. But also like it's just really unfulfilling if it's like you don't have like, to me at least, like I would just not feel very fulfilled.
So
So
I'm
I
the
don't
same
know.
exact way.
It's definitely like more important.
No, I'm the exact same way. And so when did I Love You So Much, the podcast, come about? What point in your career did you think, all right, I'm going to start a podcast and it's another vehicle for you to build that community and they get to see a different side of you. So when did the podcast come about and how is what you share on the podcast different from what you share on YouTube?
So the podcast came about I'm trying to think of what year it is. I'm like so brain dead today, but I want to say it was 2018 because we're coming up on like 3 or 4 years at this point, which is crazy though. It still feels like my new project. I had wanted to do a podcast forever. I started listening to Girl Boss podcast back before Girl Boss was like canceled and cringe, but like Girl Boss podcast with Sophia Amoruso season 1, like that was such a good show, by the way. And I was hooked. That was the first podcast I'd ever listened to. My friends were not listening to them. I remember telling them to, and they'd be like, no. I had a manager at the time who was just genuinely like the worst manager in the entire world. I think he's like, there's more drop. There's just like very sketchy. Be careful with who you add on your team. Horrible. He was very negative towards me and was like, you need to build your other followings. Like you need to gain more on YouTube or Instagram, like whatever it is, before you start something else, which I understand the sentiment, but actually was the absolute worst advice. And if I would have taken that advice, it would have been bad. So I held off on making a podcast for like a year or two. And then finally, I was like, I'm going to make it. I don't care. I'm also in rooms. Like I just am very lucky with the people that I've surrounded myself with or just the rooms that I've been in. And I was like, the conversations that I'm having just on a day-to-day basis, not really even because of me, like obviously I'm not really talking about myself. It's just the people that I'm around and the things that I'm learning are really cool. And it would be very cool in a podcast format, especially now it's turned into so much of like navigating your 20s. One, I've always wanted to host. I think I'm naturally am just a host in general.
Yeah.
But it was just like I'm in rooms and not in the way where everyone's like, oh my God, my friends and I should have a podcast. It wasn't that. It was like I'm in rooms with people who are really, really cool, have crazy stories, have insane business things, like just like very abnormal. Like I was very, very lucky. So I was like, I really want to start a podcast. And I finally did, but it took me longer than it should have because I did listen to him for a second.
So I want to talk a little bit about that actually, like how to navigate the business side of being online and managing managers and agents and brand partnerships briefly, because you have so much insight on that. But so important what you said about, you went into it thinking like, I want to share these incredible stories of the people around me because it's going to help somebody. And I want to have those conversations because I'm really curious. Like, this is so cool. And to me, that was the whole reason why I started my podcast as well. And that's so crazy that you started in 2018, which is like really early for podcasts, but you even want to start earlier. And it sucks that someone kind of held you back. And at least you get to see now, like,
you realize that and you're grateful for not having taken his advice. So how do you navigate the business side of things and know, like you said, it's really important the team members that you bring on around you. So how do you navigate once you are, building, scaling this business, social media or any, but how do you build the right team for you? What are some lessons you've learned along the way?
So my teams now, I absolutely love. Like they're the greatest ever. And I've gone through like a few different managers. I think in digital, especially, like especially in the early years, it was just like you would move around a lot more. But I am a very relational person. So I found with one of the managers specifically, the same person that I didn't like. Like my whole thing, I can't even remember. We had this merch like choose to love, like just very me, very like, oh, whatever. And he was so rude. Like the emails that we would send to people that I was working with, which I'm not on those emails, companies would then copy it and send it to me personally and be like, hey, just so you know. And that was a representation of me. So that was a big learning curve because that was humiliating and also like defeats the entire purpose of the brand. So overall, I think a lot of it is just like connection and relationship. I have to be able to really trust someone. I have to know that they really understand the vision and like can see far past like just even 6 months to a year. And it took a lot of trial and error. And then I now in the past 2 years finally have like both teams great. I mean, it was definitely it was a process.
No, absolutely. I mean, everything takes time and you have to try people out. It's a lot of trial and error, but that's so crazy that brands would literally send you like, hey, by the way, and I mean, thank God that they did. Like that the brands were nice enough
No,
to
I know. I'm like, no, literally, if that wouldn't have happened, it would have been so embarrassing. And this manager, like, I got a call from a friend 2 weeks ago and was like, hey, did you hear about this? And it's like, there's so many people that just are affected by the same person, but there's so many managers like that. So I'm very grateful to the brand for letting me know.
absolutely. Yeah, so I actually got a couple listener questions. You used to talk a lot more about your faith and you've kind of stopped doing that and they're curious as to why. Was it intentional? And if your demographic has shifted because of that. I thought that was an interesting question.
Yeah, I've answered this so many times and I still get so many questions about it. It's one of those things where I know I did share a lot about it, but what my demographic has not really changed because I was never like a southern conservative Christian girl. So I don't feel like I had like a Bible Belt following to begin with. So no, thankfully, not really. There's obviously like some comments here and there, but I always struggled with people wanting me to be a certain way and like me just not being that way or not even believing in being that way for myself. So that was part of my post grad thing of like I was in a setting where like I couldn't have said that publicly at all for so long. So I feel like a lot of people got the wrong idea, but I don't know, as I grew up and like just things happen, I'm like, this is something that like I need to navigate and process like personally and not on the internet. So that was a huge part of my like post grad like confusion as well of like I don't know what this means to me in my life or off the internet and whatever. And it's just something I just don't like talking about on the internet anymore because I also don't want to offend anyone. And I know it's done great things for people. It's done great things for me, but it's also done negative things. So I'm like, I just don't like it's done negative things for me personally as well. I'm saying like in general, just something I like don't like discussing really on the internet anymore. But I do have people who still ask, but it's just like I don't know how many more times people want, you know what I mean? That people like want me to speak on it.
No, that makes total sense. And I didn't know that because I wasn't following you back then. But
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize that you built a life online and people got really connected to that version of you and that it's almost like they're not letting you evolve. And it's like, it's time to move on. You've evolved, so have I. And it's okay for you to make that decision to be like, I don't want to share this anymore. And I can only imagine it's frustrating having to still answer those questions. So I'm sorry on a personal
Oh
level.
no,
But
you're fine. It's just that like it's like an internet thing of exactly of like I feel like people still want me to be someone that I was 2 years ago. And if like anyone was like 25 almost and like people still wanting them to be who they were at 22, it's just like thank God I'm not that anymore, you know? But it's not no, I'm not annoyed by any means. I'm just
no, I know.
tired.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, it's not that. It's just that like I don't know how else I can handle it on the internet without like I'm sure at one point if I get a book deal, I will talk about it in like a book into more whatever. But it's like it's also just not healthy for me to like process through things on the
No,
internet in
absolutely.
current
There's
time.
ways there's things, and we talked about this before, like there's things that we share a lot of our lives online, but there has to be boundaries. You have to set boundaries. You have to keep things offline, and you made that decision to like take that offline. It doesn't mean that you don't still do those things, but it's just you're not sharing them anymore, and you have every right to make that decision. And especially if it was doing you more harm than good, absolutely to take a step back and reevaluate what you're choosing to share. And can you talk a little bit about those boundaries and what are some ways you've set boundaries?
I think with this one, it was just difficult because it was something I was really struggling with. And I'm like, now that like so many people on the internet know this, that it's like an aspect of my life. It was never my entire platform by any means. And it's also not even how it started at all, which I think was what was helpful because I don't feel like it really changed my audience. If anything, it probably annoyed people, but it was just difficult. And I think it was like at first it was slow and I don't feel like anyone picked up on it. And then finally I was like, I don't have anything to say that would be healthy for anyone at this point, so I'm just not going to say anything. I addressed it just many times, but I just don't talk about it anymore, basically. So like, I guess that's my only boundary. That's my boundary. Like, I don't really have like more practical stuff than that because I just like didn't know how to deal with it.
No, that makes total sense, and that's a great time to set a boundary when you realize like you don't want to. It's just not healthy anymore for you. That's time to set a boundary, and that goes for friendships, relationships, family, everything. So yeah, for people who want to, we talked a little bit about building a community, but for people who are in the creator economy, who are on YouTube, starting a podcast, have a podcast, want to get on YouTube, want to start doing the content creation thing, what are some advice that you have for people?
Okay, my friends and I always say this, and I'm like, part of it is because none of us have blown up, I'm sure, but I actually just think over the years, I sound like a grandma saying this, it's actually been what's helped me so much, but slow and steady wins the race. None of us just are like an overnight sensation, and that's also one in a million. It's also like a 1 in a million to keep it. Like Alex from Target, it's a really good example of like overnight internet sensation, out the door, gone. There's obviously like the D'Amelios and Addison Rae who like I think are incredible, who that's worked well for them. But I would say for the most part, slow and steady wins the race. It allows you to like really build a community that's like very tight knit and that's very connected to you. And then it also helps you like kind of with like you think of like business kiss of death, which I went to business school, so I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is like a wide term, but essentially it's if a business gains too much success but they don't have the systems in order to keep the business and growth and sustain, it's not sustainable anymore. So I think that sometimes that can be the same thing when you go viral, but also being slow and steady, it helps you navigate and grow with it instead of it all happening overnight. So I would say don't focus on like being an overnight success, and also that's not always a good thing. And then the second thing being just truly be yourself and be authentic. And I know that sounds so cheesy and annoying and like everyone says that, but there's so many people who are trying to be someone else that's already exists. Like Emma Chamberlain is a really good example of this. She came on YouTube at a time where it was very highly produced and everyone was like saturation, whatever. And Emma came on the internet and was solely herself. Well, she was doing lifestyle stuff before, and then she transitioned into just like doing videos that were solely herself. And it obviously became so successful. A lot of it having to do with her just being herself. So I think that one, slow and steady wins the race, and then two, build a community or a following based around like who you actually are. Also, business wise, that's eventually going to convert. Like if I made slime videos back when slime videos were getting millions of views, that's not going to convert for my podcast or like a clothing brand or like Breadwinning Housewife, you know?
Yeah. No, and it goes to what you were talking about too. Like your audience will evolve with you as you grow slow and steady. But if you just go viral, then that's what made you go viral is what your audience wants to see. And that's just not sustainable, like you said. So I think that's incredible advice. So we know you love reading and your book club. So, and Breadwinning Housewife started because you love cooking, you love taking care of your house, you love your garden, like those kinds of things. But what are some ways that you live your life offline? What do you do for Kenzie?
I read all the time. I love cooking. I go to the ranch a lot. I don't actually live near horses. I live in the city, but I go ride horses. I spend a lot of time with my friends. I don't really share much of my social life, like maybe photos here and there, but I really don't. I don't vlog that much with friends. It's pretty rare. But yeah, I would say those are like my top things. I'm like very easy. I just like very normal things. Like my favorite restaurant is like literally Chili's. If I could go to Chili's all the time, I would. But my friends like going to other places. So like unfortunately I can't do that.
Just go by yourself.
No, I will. Seriously. I actually probably will next week. But I was thinking about that today. But yeah, I just like those are just things that I like.
Yeah, no, totally. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kenzie, for coming on. This was like literally a pinch me moment. And everyone was like, oh my God, you're having Kenzie Elizabeth on your podcast. That's so freaking cool. And I was like,
Oh,
shoot your shot. Like, that's literally what we've been talking about this whole time. Just like, do it because you love it and the success will come, but it's only sustainable if you do it because you love it. And this podcast has brought me so much more than I could have ever imagined. And having this conversation with you is just like really freaking cool. But where can everyone find you? Pimp yourself out.
well, first off, thank you. That was so nice. Kenzie Elizabeth on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Kenzie the Texan on TikTok. And my podcast is I Love You So Much with Kenzie Elizabeth.
Perfect. I'll link everything in the show notes. And I've never been to Texas. I've only like flown through the Dallas airport like to Connection.
Yes.
So I'm dying to come visit. And we definitely need to meet up. And I can't wait to one day meet you in person because you and I are the same age, and there's just a lot of, because you are so authentic, the community that you're building, all of that, but just like kindred spirits. Like I feel like we are like, we can just keep going for hours, but I know we both have busy lives and it's 5 o'clock, so it's time to relax. But thank you again so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.